thank you everyone for joining us today on this lovely Wednesday and on the last Wednesday of the month for a webinar from pen and paper to Pixel, navigating the shift to digital procurement platforms. I am Harshita from Veriscape and I'll be facilitating the webinar today. Today's webinar, we will explore the shift from manual to digital procurement via successful case studies from Veriscape and Procurement Flow. Joining us today is Pradeep Sri Ganesh, CEO at Veriscape. Veriscape is a leader in supply chain technologies, and for more than 2 decades, Veriscape has been implementing critical supply chain technologies that have helped businesses expand into new markets. Our partner will be joining us soon, but just to give you a little brief introduction about Tarmo. Tarmo Sedla is the CEO and co-founder at Procurement Flow. He is joining us from Estonia. Procurement Flow is a cloud-based platform which streamlines and automates the entire source-to-pay operations to maximize on-time, on-quality, and on-cost deliveries. And now we'll pass the floor to Pradeep to briefly introduce himself and then start the webinar.
Right. All right, thanks, Harshita. She gave you a brief background about Veriscape. I'll give you a brief background about myself. I took the helm of Veriscape about a year and a half ago. And before that, in a previous life, I was actually a theoretical physicist. And then I moved on into finance and then to Veriscape about 9 years ago. And I think that's kind of the story that's similar for a lot of procurement professionals. You know, they've worked in different places and kind of moved into procurement. It's very rare that I've met someone that studied procurement and then started in procurement. Yeah, that's kind of my story and how I'm at Veriscape. I'll just pass it over to Tarmo, who's joined us, to give a brief intro.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tarmo. So I'm from Europe in Estonia, Tallinn. So that's a place where I'm staying. But my background is also it's a procurement, it's a supply chain. In my previous role, I've been working in a big industrial company in different supply chain positions. So in cost controlling and sourcing, and also from there I kind of understood that there is too much maybe complexity in the processes that we do, and then that's kind of a story or initiative why we started with Procurement Flow to kind of simplify things and simplify things in procurement processes especially.
Thanks, Tarmo. Let me just take control here. All right. So I kind of wanted to talk a little more about the process of, starting to enter that digital transformation or moving up that technology maturity ladder. And I've got a use case from one of our automotive suppliers to go through. And I kind of broke it down into 2 use cases because I want to highlight the approach we take and also how this agile improvement, continuous improvement model in sort of modernizing the procurement process can help. So the question that comes up, and I remember my first time at Veriscape was in 2001, and even then there was this whole we need to make procurement digital. Those electronic catalogs were a big thing, electronic orders, it's no more fax machines was the key word, I think, around then. And we still keep hearing transition to digital procurement. And the question you ask is why do we do it? Sometimes the answer is pretty obvious. And, it comes back as efficiency and cost savings. And you're like, well, what type of efficiencies are we getting? The point, I think, to do these type of digital tools, use these digital tools, is to not have procurement professionals focused on tactical operations. And by tactical operations, I mean like users going like, where's my PO? Where's my PR? What's the right GL account code? I can't find an item or something like that. So you want them to focus more on strategy, which is supplier management. Are we compliant, especially as now sustainability is becoming a key thing? You know, having the tools to look at your process, to have visibility into your process is going to be, you know, very important. And the byproduct of moving these digital tools is that you should have much less errors in your process. For instance, you know, if you're using by email, you've sent a request to the wrong procurement team, wrong plant manager maybe. They don't know which catalog or which supplier to go to find that. And then also managing that data is not distributed across different plants. There might be a central storage area where you can start to have a source of truth. Now, the customer that I'm using for our use case is an automotive supplier, and they're roughly in the $10 to $15 billion revenue range. And they came to us because they were having lots of problems with their procurement process. And they were very focused on Excel and emails. And so our approach was to, you know, let's look at the procurement process you have right now, and let's kind of do little steps. So one of the things, being an older company, is they've merged with other companies, they've divested, so they've got multiple ERP systems. These ERP systems have different data formats, they're managed differently, different teams manage them. And sometimes the data is not in sync between, you know, one ERP system and another ERP system. And they could be the same product, like it could be SAP ECC, same version 6, but because they're being configured differently, set up differently, the data does not talk to each other. So the first hurdle we went through was just kind of giving them a process and the tools to connect the ERPs. And instead of 7 different teams managing, you know, these ERP tools, it came to a central place where they could, you know, consolidate the data, do some master data cleansing. And, you know, I know that word kind of always triggers some people, but in this case, it was necessary. And that allowed easier ways to create PRs, especially for users. They weren't like 7 different contacts they didn't need to know. They just knew one place to go and go about. And so that was kind of the first step in this continuous improvement. And, you know, being in this for 25 years, you learn that there's other problems that come down the line as you start to streamline. So the next problem the customer ran into was the volume of, you know, purchase requisitions had gone up because users were actively using it. They could look at their catalogs, you know, there was planning in place now in plants of, in 3 months, we will need to order this, go find us the right supplier for this. And then came the next part of the problem, which was the approvals were taking a long time. And this part was still in emails and Excel. And so we used a bunch of tools to tie these different catalogs, disparate systems together and push it out as a purchase order. So the approvals came down to being one Excel sheet, which was consumed by a system, which interpreted it and made some rules. And from this sort of setup, you know, it's all along the way, there's these little improvements that keep happening. And users start to see, plant managers start to see changes, you know, over a quarter, over 2 quarters. And now the questions that come back from stakeholders and end users is no more like, oh, what's the new process? It's like, what's next? What can we do more? And I think that's, you know, really kind of uplifting story, but it's also, it's gone from like, we need to do this to save money to now, you know, the whole company getting behind it, or the procurement team, plant managers, users, you know, finance, because now they can get reports on time, see what's occurring, you know, and it kind of pushes that effort. And I want to kind of point out that it's a stark contrast of some of the other stories we've heard from some of our customers where they're like, okay, now's the time. Let's go to one ERP system, one CMS system, one inventory management system. And it's like a 2-year timeline. And then there's like a date where you start training users. 6 months from there, everyone's on the new system. And inevitably, there's always problems that come up. And I think with this sort of agile approach, as you'll do little by little, you also kind of grow with the business, the company, because they have a mindset of how things should work. But when you take a large project, to like new ERP, everything like that, I tend to find that companies tend to change their view to fit the technology, and it really should be the other way around. So I hope those 2 use cases were useful for you guys to see like what our view is and how we approach problems. And that's one of the reasons like we partnered with Procurement Flow, because when I first saw Procurement Flow and how it was structured in that Kanban board, you could see like, okay, I can see the different segments of a procurement lifecycle, and I could dive into one area where I know I've got a problem, build it up, run into the other host of problems, which are good problems to have as you streamline. And then there's another part of Procurement Flow which will fix that later down the line. Anyway, so with that, I hand over control to Tarmo.
All right, very nice. Thank you, Pradeep, for a good intro and also the kind words. And I mean, one of the reasons we also teamed up with Verscape was that we really liked the way you guys structure the processes and how you approach to different problems. So that's something that we really like, right? And yeah, going forward here, then where we come to the play and where we see the usually the problems or maybe not even the problems, it's challenges, right, that the companies faces is really the transparency is one thing, and it's not just transparency. Meaning here is like an audit trail that you really need to see the sequence of actions, but it's more of transparency of let's say what your suppliers are doing, transparency of what the requesters are actually asking, and etc. So this is something that where we really help. Also, coming from the big conglomerate and a big company background, then one of the problems is that the systems are over complex in some cases, and they are kind of siloed. So we try to bring here really the simplicity, and later on when I show the product pictures, then you will really see that it's really different. I also know that there is a lot of manual and routine work that is kind of part of the procurement, unfortunately. Things are very manual, and things are, let's say, actions are very much the same, from day to day. So also here, really to automate some simple things, as part of the requisition management, as part of the tendering process, as part of the PO and PO release, that might be really a good way to free up the time and really do some actions that might be also really valuable, like negotiating suppliers, and evaluating these, finding new ones, etc. The data in some cases is very unstructured. They're coming in, let's say, in a different formats. The data is coming in, usually in several Excels, and it takes a lot of time to really, let's say, pile things up and kind of, get some kind of report maybe out of it. So that's one of the part, because my background also is a bit around cost controlling, data management, and then I really know the value of the data. And very typical is really the miscommunication. especially, I mean, let's say this is a part of the, let's say, requisition process. When requisitions are coming in, they're coming in, again, might come in a different formats. Maybe some are coming in via email, some are coming in via phone call, some are coming in via, let's say, the ERP. But there also might be some communication along it, which is not then really part of that that data coming in. And then later on, there might be cases when this is causing some kind of issues when the communication was not treated correctly. And yeah, I mean, we see that there are the three parts. I mean, there is a procurement team, there is a suppliers, and then there are these, let's call these external customers, or let's say internal customers. And I think it's really important that all these three parts, I mean, they are somehow blended together in a process wise, so that we have a same kind of a communication room here. All right. And yeah, I mean, procurement flow, I mean, it's we do not solve all the challenges that you have, but we are trying to solve the ones that are usually, let's say, manual, or where we see that there are some issues. One is really the requisition management. And yeah, this very much depends on the companies. I mean, how big of a challenge this is. But let's say if it's a typical manufacturing company, then usually the direct materials requisition is handled pretty well. But when it comes to indirect, then this is a problem. When it's not a manufacturing company, it's a company offering some services, etc. Then the requisition management might be not that well structured. So yeah, this is where we help. Then it's really the e-sourcing tendering, and this process we really like because usually that's not a part of any ERPs. Yet this is an important part of procurement day-to-day activities. I mean, it's very typical that we go out and ask offers from multiple suppliers, do the comparisons. But very usual process is that it's very manual. Usually the email is sent out to multiple suppliers. Data is collected in a different formats. Some offers are coming in on a PDF, some are coming in on Excel, and then a lot of time is spent on doing comparisons and really finding the best possible offer and going forward. So this is really the process where we see that procurement flow can really help to really automate things up. Then the PO release might be some cases problematic. In some cases, there is no PO release at all. In some cases, the PO release is maybe not that structured. Or let's say, if we combine it with our, let's say, tendering, then and customers are usually using their ERP to send out POs, then it's on our side, we usually do the integration, meaning that the data coming in as offers from tendering is sent then to ERP. So meaning the supplier name, offer prices, items, etc., and the PO release is then done from ERP. Data storage reporting, as said, I mean, really valuing the data. So yeah, I mean, from procurement flow, I mean, any given time it's possible to take out full data, and also, I mean, we support that this data is sent. I mean, if someone is using some Power BI or Tableau or Google Data Studio for the BI analytics, then also over the API we are able to send out that data to these systems automatically, so that yeah, you can really see the let's say the value of from the numbers. And as modern softwares today are built, and also in our case, I mean, it's really important is connectivity. So we are using the REST API, meaning that it's easy to connect on both ends. So meaning the data coming in, or then sending data out. So so yeah, because yeah, as procurement flow can be used as a standalone, but I mean, very typical use case is that it's part of the or integrated as with existing ERP, because usually in ERP some process steps are there, but not the whole cycle. Especially, for example, tendering, requisition management might be the ones that are lacking. All right, and yeah, really about the product. I mean, as Pradeep also mentioned, then we have taken a bit of a different approach. We are kind of opposing this kind of a very let's say table, let's say the softwares that look like Excel or table. So we are more, I mean, let's say we have taken let's say these design tips from the task management, and also a bit on from the IT side, how the let's say work is managed, for example, in IT. Then everything is in let's say kind of a tickets. There is a kind of a status. There is a user assigned to it. So we have taken some of the best practices from there. But we are, of course, I mean, on a background on there is always this procurement logic that you cannot really make the unlogical steps, and you cannot drag the card from request directly to, I don't know, to invoice. I mean, there needs to be some kind of steps between, and also like maneuvering back is not allowed, and etc. But yeah, what we really value is that, I mean, everything that is on a procurement team plate should also be on a screen in front of them, that they shouldn't really need to like scroll horizontally or go like 10 clicks, I mean, down the line to see what's going on. But actually, I mean, everything should be in front of them. So yeah, this is like a card-based work environment. So very user-friendly and kind of let's say visually, I would say really appealing to work with. So our slogan has been like for quite some time, that bringing love back to procurement. So I think this is one of the things that we are using for that expression of love here. So that really that visual look and feel. All right, but just a few words about the requisitions and why this we see that this is a problem, and especially this requisition is something that we started. We see that these requisitions usually are coming in a very different means. So our idea is that, I mean, whatever is a type of let's say the method of requisitions coming in, we are giving them a same structure. Is it coming in via email? Is it coming in from ERP, from catalog, or even from the Teams chat? We can pull the requisitions in from all of these places and kind of make it as a requisition task. User can be assigned. You can immediately continue with the tendering, or you can continue the discussion with a requester, and all the discussion is also staying within that on a board. I mean, within that requisition card. So you have also this chat history there. So that's something that they are really funneling in the requisition. It's a one thing, and yeah, use cases can be different. Can be for direct materials, indirect materials. I don't know, service materials, whatever. So yeah, there are very many different use cases. When it comes to tendering, then I mean, I think we can, and I'm not really lying here when I'm saying that it's really the quickest tendering process on the market. It literally takes, I mean, I don't know, I mean, if you're already like experienced, I mean, you can do it in 3 to 4 minutes to send out this tender, I mean, to multiple users. And to send out tender means that, I mean, you create the event, you select your suppliers, and you release it, right? Yeah, so it really needs to be quick. We don't really want that users waste any time here. And later on, I mean, you will see the comparable results as end goal, right? And then you can take the data forward, I mean, to ERP, or you continue there. Of course, KPIs and built-in dashboards. This can be customized as well. So you have your embedded reporting there, or this data can also be sent out to via API to different BI analytical tools. Yeah, and really the last ones here. I mean, we value the REST API. We value that the software is connected to different systems. and that the connection needs to really be easy. I mean, there is no need to really like start building the connections from scratch, but I mean, we can utilize our API endpoints here. And maybe, I mean, just very quickly, I mean, two different use cases. I mean, it's really there are things, right, that users will gain. I mean, one is really the time saved along the process. Usual use case in tendering is like 40 to 50% time is saved on the process, and then really the cost control and the PR management. I mean, then this will actually result into the tangible savings. So these are the two things. I mean, time and money. All right. So that's from my side.
Thanks, Ramo and Pradeep, for such an engaging webinar and also telling us so much about how your products have been helping organizations. We now have quick 5 minutes for a Q&A session. So in case anybody has any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. But in the meanwhile, I do have some questions that have come in before from the attendees. The first question is, can you outline a typical timeline for implementing a digital procurement platform? I'll start with Tarmo first, and then Pradeep can take over.
Mm-hmm. I mean, usually in our case, I mean, it's let's say 2 to 4 weeks, and that includes let's say a couple of user training sessions, going through the process, adding some basic data to the system like suppliers, I mean, etc. There is a need to do the integration. I mean, very simple one, that data is sent to ERP, and this ERP also has endpoints available. Then usually this can also be part of it, this 2 to 4 weeks. But yeah, this is something that we see. So it is quick in our case. So we don't really need to like set up the processes, etc. Though everything is already there. Just basically the user training and typical onboarding.
Gosh, my turn. It's kind of a nuanced question, because like when we get engaged, there's already been a problem, or there's a process that's just not working. So everyone's focused on that one issue, and to kind of first to get an understanding of what the problem is and also where it stems from. To you need to kind of know a bit about the procurement lifecycle, and not taking away from the people in there, but when you're down there, in the trenches, you sort of lose that vision of what's the larger picture. So getting a handle on that first few issues does take some time. And from our side, because there's those initial contacts, trying to learn the problem, turn the technology space and the process, where plant distribution, we like to do that within 6 to 7 weeks, just to get that understanding, know what technology is in there. And the reason like I really wanted to partner with Procurement Flow was the implementation time is very quick, like Tarmo said. And that's so important because, people come with an issue, like our catalog management system just does not cope. If you can show some results within 2 months, with like Procurement Flow, and it's starting to ease that workflow, then that's when you start getting into that mindset of this is continuous improvement. Okay, we've solved some of this problem. Now let's look at what the next steps are. So I'd say initially it's going to take about 2 months to understand the problem, the tech landscape, and then put in, product in place and train users.
There's another question that has come up. How do digital procurement platforms integrate with other enterprise systems, such as ERP or accounting software? Pradeep, would you like to start, and then Tarmo takes?
Okay, I think this is more Tarmo's area of expertise. But so it's a lot of it depends on the ERP. So like, using SAP as an example, to access some of their APIs is actually an extra license fee. So you're constrained by not just the technology, but also like licensing costs. And so you end up with users that use like SFTP, and it's like, once a day to try and synchronize, processes. So those are usually the fail points you have in integrations. Those kinds of issues that come up just need to be pointed out. And it's just a matter of, I think Tom was better suited to answer this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's as you said, I mean, it really depends on the ERP that the customer is using. There is no perfect answer to here, but I mean, so far from our experience, I mean, it's possible to integrate with almost all ERPs. There is, let's say, and I bring out just the most complex cases. I mean, where usually our issues is if there is like a ERP, which is very old legacy version. It's sitting in not on a cloud, but on-prem, meaning that it's installed in a local servers. So this is like the most complex case, right? I mean, all other cases usually are easier. There are cases that can be done in a few hours. There are cases that need this extra, let's say, licensing and maybe some support. But I mean, so far, I mean, we haven't seen any major issues because also, let's say, the ERPs, I mean, and then they also, let's say, understand, I mean, that that nowadays really the value is if the ERPs also can be connected, right, so that they are not again siloed, because there are so many other tools that are actually required by organizations, and they need to be able to bring data in, but also send it out.
We'll just take the last question now and then have a wrap. How can we measure the return on investment for digital procurement solutions?
Okay.
Tarmo, do you want to start?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in our case, it's because we have also helped, I mean, in some cases with these business cases for procurement teams to put them on a table of for a C-level. So I mean, in our case, it's simple. It's because we can really, let's say, go on with time saving here. Time saving will result into some numbers as well. So that's kind of the one thing. Another thing is, I mean, the tendering. I mean, if these tenders are not done, I mean, currently, let's say, systematically, you're not always able to pull in these 3 to 4 offers. I mean, you're not able to do savings. Then also it's possible then to say that, I mean, it's amount of savings can be increased because, I mean, the process is better. But usually, let's say, it's clearer, I mean, especially for a C-level to explain it on a time saving on a process side.
Yeah, I agree with Tom. Time saving is probably the biggest thing. But just to carry out, like, most companies come in with an idea of what they want to measure before and after. But once they start implementing the process, they realize, oh, okay, there's much more that we can now measure. And so it's, the kind of the first question, like at the beginning of the process, it seems like a really important question. But then as you start doing it, you realize, okay, there's much more things we can measure now. Like we can see what our Maverick spend is. We can see, which suppliers are actually staying on contract, things like that. And so other things start to come up. So it's a very open question that kind of the answer changes as you go along this sort of maturity.
Exactly.
I don't think we have any more questions. That's all for us. But thank you everyone for giving us your time today. Please feel free to connect with Pradeep or Tarmo via LinkedIn or via the website. And we will be sending out the speaker presentations and the recording early next week. Great. Thank you. Have a great day.
Everyone. Thank you.